Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Real Talk NYC Real Estate with John and Jonathan. And unfortunately, I am Jonathan-less today. He is occupied elsewhere. And so you got yours truly for what I think is a pretty great FAQ, frequently asked question, the topic of staging. And I think it's a really, really interesting topic. And it's a topic that is really grabbed hold of the real estate market in general, let alone the Manhattan market. So the first question that I'm going to address is it really important to stage your home or your apartment? And then the second question is going to be, if so, what is important to be staging when it comes to your piece of real estate? And then lastly, specific things to change in the apartment or to address when it comes to staging. So first and foremost, let me just back up. You know, a lot of times sellers will think that, oh, staging. We heard about staging, you know, it's kind of a new agey type of a thing for brokers to spend the seller's money. And the answer to that is an emphatic no. The reason I say that is because we have done it and the apartments have sold at really, really great numbers. So the proof is in the pudding. Our first kind of foray into staging was after the financial crisis, about 12 years ago. And before then, it was a seller's market. So even marginal apartments, when you have a seller's market, were selling. The buyers were buying the real estate. And it was very easy or much easier for a seller to sell the apartments. Well, when the markets turned and the buyers took control, then the buyers, they just took their time. And they had a lot more real estate to choose from. And so it became more and more important for the sellers to put their apartment in the best market light. And that's when the influx of stagers started to happen. We as agents, it became more challenging for us and more challenging for sellers to get their homes sold. Because a lot of times sellers want the highest, every time the seller wants the highest market price, but in a buyer's market, we not only have to be cognizant of price, the buyers are became more and more, they scrutinize the apartments more carefully. So whereas in a seller's market, a buyer might come in and look at a marginalized view. Oh, okay, and with not so good light, but because the real estate was trading so quickly, they had to grab the real estate. In a buyer's market, not so much. That becomes a challenge that we have to overcome. We, Gasdaska Conlon, are huge proponents of staging with a seller. That does not mean that we go into a home and we say, oh, hi, Mr. Smith or Miss Jones, and we tell them, okay, we're going to remove all the furniture in your home and we're going to bring in our stager and you're going to spend anywhere between $5,000 and $20,000 to stage your home. That's not what I'm talking about. Now, in some instances, we will address that in an estate, for instance, where there's practically no furniture in the home, or where a seller is receptive to spending money with a third-party staging company. That's superb. Then we can guide them and we bring in a couple of stagers to create quotes, etc. But more often than not, we have sellers who don't know the pitfalls of their personal belongings and the way that their apartment presents. So an emphatic yes, we are huge fans of staging. The second question, in what ways does staging help the seller sell their home? There's a myriad of ways. When we walk into an apartment for the very first time, we, as real estate brokers, look at the apartment through the eyes of the buyer. Seller looks at the eyes, their own eyes. It's their home, it's their personal belongings, etc. But we look through everything that the buyer may take exception to, may find as an obstacle. If we, as professional real estate brokers, have issue with feeling the space, seeing the space, experiencing the space, the seller has a big problem. Clear example. Many years ago, Jonathan and I represented an estate, a very famous person who had died. I went to meet the executor of the estate. I was the first person. I knew that it was a good apartment that faced Central Park on Fifth Avenue. When I walked into the apartment, I could barely walk into the apartment. There was so much stuff. I walked in and I could see over items, and I'm not kidding, Central Park at like the top, but all the stuff was there blocking. And there was a path that was created to get to the windows. So immediately that had to all be cleared. And the estate did clear it out because the view is what we were selling, and then the bones of the apartment, and then the apartment did ultimately sell. Going back, we will walk through the apartment and we will be looking at many different factors to categorize the most important areas to address in staging. I would have to say, first and foremost, addressing the furniture, personal belongings of the seller. Second would be the colors of the apartment and the painting in the apartment. Any home that has ostentatious color, bold colors, we will always tell the sellers best to do a simple whitewash of the apartment. Third would be any kind of damage done to an apartment and anything addressing the possible flaws of the apartment. When I talk about addressing obstacles in an apartment that has a compromised view with thick draperies that are trapping the light, that's the last thing you want to do. All those draperies have to be removed. Kitchen and bathrooms. If the kitchen's really tiny, okay, well, it's really tiny, so make it cute. Bathroom, clean, clean, clean. Fresh linens, very important. And then last but not least, I think we're huge fans of flowers, warmth of books, personal items that are not personal to the seller. So I'm jumping around a bit here, but I'm just going to dive right in. When we meet with a seller, we are very sensitive to the fact that the seller, unless it's an estate, these are the seller's personal belongings. But we will talk to them in terms of our ability to stage the apartment versus a third party that's going to cost them a lot of money. And minor staging can be done and become very, very effective for sellers. First and foremost, all the windows must be clean in the apartment. Second of all, using the furniture that they have in their apartment in different ways. Carpeting. If it's old ratty carpeting, we have them remove the carpeting and clean their floors. Bookshelves. If you have tons of books and everything is not scattered, everything has to be uniform, culled, organized. Closets, we go through each of the closets and we have them remove items. Container store is a lifesaver when it comes to staging of an apartment. When a buyer walks into an apartment, the very last thing that they want to do is open a closet and a broom to fall out on them. Major, major faux pas. So closets need to be organized. And then once we go through each of the rooms of the apartment, and we will even during pictures stage how we like the apartment to look, and most sellers will keep the apartment in that order during showing. Number one rule of staging, and that is to depersonalize the apartment. We don't need to look at 30 pictures of your family. That's great, maybe one, maybe two. And the other thing is art. Art is there to accentuate the home, not to distract from it. Lighting is very, very, very important. Any place that is in shadow is lit. The buyer's first impressions of the home can make or break it. A buyer has great instincts. They can either see themselves in the home or they cannot. Our job is to present a really beautiful, neutral palette, whether it's an older apartment or a newer apartment. That's what we're getting at when we talk about staging. Staging goes right to the heart of first impressions for buyers. So these, and you got to remember, the staging ideas, this is all coming from me. And it's not coming from, John G's guru book of staging. This is from lifelong experience of working with many, many, many sellers. And then the pitfalls of not staging, and then the rewards of properly staging. Okay, so the last two things that I want to quickly touch on are pets and children. Many families have children in smaller apartments. That is a challenge for a seller. The more organized that you can be in decluttering your children's items and not allowing the children's items to command the home, the better off you're going to be. Organization, making sure that a child's room is organized, items in a closet are organized, go a long way, and we'll help you to address that. The second thing are pets. I have a pet. I love my pet to death. My pet is my child. But an apartment, you do not walk in and you do not want to, A, smell your pet, and B, look at all the pet toys. Our number one ultimate would be have the pet removed during every showing. A pet, it needs to be neutralized of pets and children, but people, we understand people are living there. We're giving our insight into how best an apartment can be shown. If you have any questions about staging, we are huge fans of staging. We are here to help. I hope I've given you some ideas on staging. I hope I've answered questions. If I haven't answered your staging questions, please write in the notes. Please email me, and I promise I will get back to you. Thanks so much for listening. I've missed my partner, but he will be back next week. Be healthy, safe, most of all, remain in gratitude, and thank you so much for watching.
Thanks for watching or listening to the Gasdaska Conlon Team podcast. If you want to find us online or sign up to get our monthly and quarterly market stats, come on over to our website, GasdaskaConlonTeam.com, or you can find us on all social media with the handle @Gasdaska Conlon Team. If this show was helpful, entertaining, or informative, consider telling friends and family or leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss our next episode, and we'll see you next time.